my lens is a little different than the rest of the panelists because, you know, I'm in academia, and I've spent my entire life in academia, from graduate school through. I also served as a professor for 16 years in the classroom, and you know, a lot has changed in our classrooms over the last couple of decades. You know, our lack of cultural sensitivity sometimes in the classroom, I think we're getting an awful lot better, but you know, I've witnessed or observed classes where, say, the only African-American student is asked to answer a question, you know, sort of, again, that sort of cultural representation of, you know, well, what do you think? And you're supposed to speak for an entire group. And obviously, I think everybody attending this panel and my fellow panelists would all agree, like that is just not something we can continue to do. And so I'm going to come at this question sort of from two lenses, from the individual who's sort of the target of that question, you know, no matter how well-meaning or not, or inadvertently unthoughtful it was. And then I'll talk about sort of from the other side, you know, what we as leaders need to do about that. So as far as the individuals where, you know, you are asked to sort of serve as your cultural representative, whether you're Muslim or Asian American or African American or Latina, you need to have a voice. And I think you've been sort of hearing that theme throughout this panel. You know, you need to sort of dig within yourself to recognize that you don't have to sort of sit back and take that. You can speak up. And speaking up can come in many forms. You know, I tend to be an outspoken person. And so sometimes if I see a wrong, I sort of do something about it right away. So, you know, my comeback would be like, well, why are you asking me as the only, you know, woman in the room, right? Not everybody feels that way. And that's where either a private conversation with someone, or more importantly, finding an ally. I can't tell you how many times I've served as an ally for individuals who are not yet finding their voice to speak up about something that's not working for them. And so then I sometimes will take someone aside and say, you know, such and such is feeling a little bit targeted here because you continue to ask, you know, him a question, whereas, you know, you might want to sort of think about the effect that might have on that person. So allies are such a critical thing in the DEI space in terms of, you know, maybe it's not an issue you personally are experiencing it, but being cognizant of what others might be experiencing and helping that individual can help them find their voice. Now, the real key is making sure that there's not just one of in a room, right? So making sure that it's not just only a woman in the room or only a Latino in the room. So you, especially for those of you on this call that are hiring managers, executives, leaders, you need to find ways in your workplace to diversify, to make sure that you're giving everyone that opportunity to have that seat at the table that Avery was talking about earlier, right? So, you know, I could tell you in the academic setting, right? So I'm a scientist, I'm not a tech person, I'm a microbial geneticist. We have done so much in academics to increase the STEM pipeline in terms of not just our students, right? So we have a really wonderful, diverse student body, as many universities across this country do. But in the STEM workforce, not just in your industries, but also in academia, we really lack those individuals who can educate the next generation. And like Avery made some beautiful points about individuals who inspired him, because basically, you know, he's like, wow, this is a chemist and this chemist looks like me. We all love to learn sometimes from people that look like us. It's just a natural human trait. So all I would say is make sure that you're having inclusive hiring practices. And there's so many easy ways to do that. And then the last quick thing, if I can, Elaine, just one other point I'd like to make. One thing that we've instituted at Rider, and I know other universities across the country are doing this, is they're starting programs, particularly in STEM, where the faculty member is partnered with a student, and a student that's been trained in knowing how to communicate to the faculty member. They observe teachings in the classroom. And let's say Avery's teaching a class in molecular biology. And it's like, you know, Professor Ince, you did a great job today, but did you notice you kept calling on such and such? And it made such and such really uncomfortable. And you might want to, you know, think about what you're doing. And so this partnership between the faculty member and the student is allowing them to see things that maybe they wouldn't have been aware of. And I don't know how much of that can or should be done in the workplace, but that's another thought, just to sort of have a different lens of what are you doing and having someone else's perspective in that.